Bronny James is facing his biggest NBA reality check, and the Lakers' silence says everything.
In the NBA, you have to pretend that Bronny's an NBA player, because otherwise you'll upset the king. And remember, he is a 6'2" guard that's a non-point guard. I've never seen that existing in the current NBA. And go back 20 years. He is 1 for 16 in the NBA from the floor, 0 for 7 on threes. He's not an NBA player. He was not a great high school player. He was a good high school player. He wasn't a good college player. He was a college player. And he's not an NBA player. And he may be a great kid. I'm sure he is. LeBron's a nice guy. I've met him. Can we stop pretending on this?
I just looked it up. G-League top scorers, points per game. I went through 50, and there's no Bronny James in there. He had 140-point game. The other games were 1. So now you do the math, and it's not going to be in the top 50. I don't even know who is this. Bryce McGowan, Elijah Harkles, Trey Alexander, DJ Davidson. Never heard of these kids. But they're dropping 30 a night in G League. Why is Bronny sitting on the bench? And this is the thing with Stephen A.
Bronny James, he's 7 for 28 in 4 preseason games from the field. He's 2 for 13, I believe, from three-point range. He's got 8 assists and 8 turnovers. He's moving into year 2. This guy is not an NBA player.
There's an unspoken rule in the NBA that every player knows the moment they enter a locker room. NBA roster spots are very limited, only 15 per team. Each spot represents many players who never made it, guys who worked hard in summer league, signed short contracts, played overseas, and fought for a chance to reach the league. Because of that, when someone holds a roster spot without earning full trust from the coaches, it doesn't stay quiet. Frustration builds over time, and eventually it becomes obvious that that's the situation the Los Angeles Lakers are dealing with when it comes to Bronny James. That on paper, Bronny is an NBA player. He has a guaranteed contract, wears the Lakers jersey, and sits on the bench. But when the team actually needed help, when key players like Luka Doncic, Gabe Vincent, and Austin Reeves were out or limited, Bronny still didn't get meaningful minutes. Instead, head coach J.J. Redick chose Nick Smith Jr. to play. Nick Smith Jr. isn't a major star. He was even waived by Charlotte early in his career and later signed on a two-way deal with little attention. But in that game, the Lakers trusted him more than Bronny. That decision says a lot. It wasn't about Nick Smith Jr. being great. It was about Bronny not being trusted yet. And in the NBA, that matters. That it shows the Lakers' real internal hierarchy without anyone saying a word later in the game. When the Suns had already taken control and the outcome was decided, Bronny finally checked in with about 9 minutes left. Garbage time. This has been a pattern all season. When the game is close or important, Bronny doesn't play. When there's pressure, he doesn't play. When the game is on the line, he doesn't play. At this point, it's not about development. It looks more like protection and limiting risk.
Last night came in, 3 turnovers, 0 for 5, looked terrified, nervous, and the Sixers, you can't fool players, went right after him. This continues to be an unserious story.
This isn't about just one game. It's a clear pattern that's getting harder to ignore or justify. Bronny hasn't played more than 10 meaningful minutes in a game since early November. Even when the Lakers had injuries in the backcourt and needed energy, defense, or playmaking, J.J. Redick still didn't turn to him. That says a lot on its own. NBA coaches will usually play young or struggling players if they trust them. They'll accept mistakes and let them learn through game experience. But what they won't do is play someone they believe hurts the team's chance to win. Right now, the Lakers seem to be signaling that Bronny is not in that trusted group. That leads to an uncomfortable question. Is Bronny holding a roster spot that could go to someone more ready to contribute? Because around the league, there are real rotation guards and role players who would love even a few minutes. Players who defend well, shoot consistently, and know their role. These are the kinds of players championship teams rely on in the later part of the season. Those players don't get special treatment. They don't get patience because of their name or reputation. They are judged only by how well they perform. Bronny still hasn't reached that level. Not even close. And that's where frustration starts to build. Not just among fans, but around the league. Players notice everything. They see when someone is being protected. They see when minutes aren't truly earned. And they notice when a coaching staff avoids using a player even when the situation seems to call for it to end the game against Phoenix. When the Lakers needed a spark, J.J. Redick looked everywhere except the end of the bench. He used Nick Smith Jr. He tried different lineups. He gave Austin Reeves more responsibility. Basically, he did everything possible before turning to Bronny, only putting him in when the game was already decided. That doesn't feel like random rotation choices. It feels like clear hesitation. Looking at Bronny's numbers doesn't help his case either. In around 15 games, he's averaging under 2 points per game with very limited assists and little defensive impact. Most of his minutes have come in garbage time against opponents' reserve players. When the game is already out of reach, these aren't high-pressure situations. They are not against starters or playoff-level competition. And even in those moments, he hasn't clearly stood out. That's the part many fans struggle with. If a player dominates garbage time, shows energy, defense, shooting, or playmaking, coaches usually reward that. Effort and impact always get attention in the NBA. But so far, Bronny hasn't given the Lakers a strong reason to increase his role. And when you step back and look at the bigger picture, it raises even more questions. Bronny James is a guaranteed spot on the Lakers' 15-man roster. And the problem is simple. The Lakers are trying to win a championship right now. Contenders don't just need star power. They need depth. They need defensive guards, reliable role players, and players who can handle playoff-level pressure. But one of their roster spots is being used on a player they clearly don't trust in meaningful games. That creates a long-term issue. NBA front offices don't make decisions based on emotion or storylines. They operate on performance and value. When the trade deadline approaches, every contract turns into either an asset or a liability. Right now, Bronny looks less like a long-term developmental piece and more like a question mark the Lakers will eventually have to deal with. The reality is, he's not untouchable. No matter the story around him or the attention he brings, the Lakers' own decisions already show he's not part of their real rotation. And if that's the case, keeping him on the active roster becomes harder to justify, especially for a team chasing a title. That there's also the bigger picture with LeBron James. He opted in for another season, but that situation isn't permanent. When that era ends, so does any extra protection or pressure that comes with it. After that, Bronny will be evaluated like every other player in the league, purely on production, consistency, and impact, and so far, that evaluation hasn't been very strong. That doesn't mean his NBA story is over. It just means, right now, he hasn't shown enough to change how the Lakers are using him. Development in the NBA is never a straight path, especially for guards. It takes time, representatives, and real game minutes to grow. But development only works when a player actually gets consistent opportunity, and that comes from trust. Right now, Bronny has neither. He's in one of the worst situations for a young player, officially on the roster, but not really part of the team's rotational plan. That's how a lot of careers quietly stall before they ever fully start. The uncomfortable reality is that there are players in the G League, overseas, and even sitting in free agency who could probably help the Lakers more right now than Bronny can. Some are defensive specialists who take pride in stopping opponents. Others are high-energy guards who change pace. Some are floor spacers who understand their role and play within it perfectly. Those are the types of players contenders rely on in big moments. But roster spots are limited, and one of those spots is currently taken by Bronny James. This isn't about attacking him personally. It's about the reality of the NBA. The league is extremely competitive because there are far more talented players than available spots. Every roster decision matters, and every spot sends a message, and right now, the message from the Lakers is clear. They don't trust Bronny James to help them win at this stage. Until that changes, the questions will continue about fairness, opportunity, and whether that roster spot is being used in the best way for a team trying to compete for a championship. Because in the NBA, nothing matters more than winning. Not names, not stories, not history, just impact on the court. And that's the reality Bronny is facing right now.